simply couldn't sleep and decided to open the window for some fresh air. Only to discover, to her horror, that the sky at 3 in the morning was as bright as day. When she looked through the blinds, she saw an eerie white glow in the distance. The light quickly expanded, and the intense brightness instantly blinded her. At first, Janai didn't think much of it, assuming it was just a local natural phenomenon, so she nonchalantly crawled back under the covers. Little did she know that a terrible disaster had already begun to unfold. The next morning, her boyfriend woke her up. They had come here specifically for a vacation, but just as they were getting ready to go for breakfast, they were surprised to find the restaurant completely empty. They guessed the staff might be taking the day off, so they decided to grab something to eat outside. But the moment they stepped out of the hotel, they were stunned. It was already 10 a.m., yet the streets were completely deserted. There wasn't even a single car in sight. The silence was eerie, but at that moment, they didn't think much of it. They assumed the town must be hosting some kind of event that had drawn everyone away. However, as they walked further and further, they finally realized the gravity of the situation. Not only were there no other people on the streets, but even the animals had vanished without a trace. They hurried back to the busiest part of downtown, only to find it completely deserted as well. They shouted until their voices were hoarse, but no one answered. It was as if everyone had vanished into thin air. Even if there was an event, there should have been posters plastered along the streets. Puzzled, they went to a supermarket, but what they found left them utterly disheartened. Not only was there not a single customer in sight, but the clerks were gone too. They then visited several more supermarkets in quick succession, but all were deserted. Refusing to accept this, they began wandering the streets and alleys, but after searching nearly half the city, they didn't see a single soul. They then walked into a nearby pub and found the chairs neatly arranged, which meant no one had entered since closing time last night. This eerie phenomenon left Janai completely devastated. Where on earth had everyone gone? Just then, Matt suddenly thought of the TV news. With something this massive happening, the news would surely be all over the airwaves. But when Matt switched to the news channel, he found the screen was blank. With no other choice, the two left the pub, just as a thick fog began to envelop them. Where had everyone gone? If a virus had killed everyone, surely they'd see bodies. If aliens had abducted everyone, where was the alien spacecraft? They had no choice but to return to their hotel. Matt immediately pulled out his laptop, hoping to find answers online, only to discover that the news had frozen at yesterday's headlines. Janai tried calling her mother in the United States, but no one answered. She didn't receive a single reply to her messages either. Then Matt came up with a plan. He immediately grabbed his girlfriend and ran outside. He decided to go to the highest point in the city to take a look, so they set off for the mountain. But as they walked, they came across a car that was still running. The windows were open, but the driver was nowhere to be seen, so they didn't hesitate to get into the car and sped toward the mountaintop. But when they finally reached the top, they found the villa there completely empty. Where on earth had everyone gone? They hadn't expected that just coming out for a vacation would lead them into such an incredibly eerie situation. It wasn't until evening that they returned to the hotel. Exhausted, Janai thought they might just be having a nightmare, and that perhaps everything would return to normal tomorrow. However, when they woke up the next day, the pleasant surprise they'd imagined never materialized. The world remained just as deathly silent as it had been the day before, and the computers had lost their signal due to lack of maintenance. Now, all Janai could think about was getting out of there, but Matt was just as helpless. For now, they had to eat first and figure things out later, so the two headed to the supermarket. Looking at the various goods on the shelves, they wasted no time and went on a free shopping spree. They filled several shopping carts to the brim. Seeing that their car couldn't hold it all, Matt drove over in a luxury SUV, but the hotel fridge certainly couldn't hold all those items, so they drove to an affluent neighborhood, picked out the most luxurious house, and moved right in. Janai never imagined she'd get to live in such a lavish villa, experiencing the kind of life only the wealthy enjoy. At first, she found it very hard to adjust, but watching her boyfriend frolic and play inside the mansion, she gradually came to terms with the reality. Next, the two headed to a luxury boutique and stocked up on a massive haul of designer clothes. They also filled several large bags with goods from a general store. That night, the couple went to a bar to fully indulge in this life of extravagance and excess, enjoying life without restraint, reveling in this bizarre gift bestowed by fate. However, this seemingly heavenly existence actually harbored immense danger.